Okay, today we are diving into a story of just absolute transformation. We're looking at how one single person built a career totally unlike anyone else in Pakistan just by constantly adapting to technological change. I mean, think about it. In a world where entire industries can literally be wiped out overnight by a new app or algorithm, how do you survive? Or better yet, how do you actually thrive? Well, we are unpacking the journey of Waqar Zaka. He's a figure who went from mainstream television fame straight to the absolute cutting edge of digital finance and technology.
Now, on paper, hosting a high-octane reality TV show and then, advocating for complex blockchain technology, those seem like they belong in two completely different universes. It is a massive, drastic pivot. But as we're going to see, the bridge between those two worlds is built on this really deep understanding of audience engagement and just a relentless drive to stay ahead of the curve. So how exactly did he manage this wild transition?
To figure out this unexpected journey, we're going to map it out across 5 phases. We've got the television era, the social media shift, the cryptocurrency mission, controversies and criticisms, and finally, mastering digital reinvention.
So, let's jump right into Chapter 1, the television era and his mainstream success.
Let's look at where it all started. Growing up in the bustling streets of Karachi, he really wasn't just your average kid. He had this deep, almost obsessive interest in computers, gadgets, and just creative ideas. And tinkering with clunky 90s and early 2000s electronics is a far cry from today's sleek digital landscape, right? But it perfectly highlights his early knack for spotting tech trends. Even way before the fame, he was constantly experimenting. Instead of following that traditional, predictable career path that we're all sort of expected to take, he harbored a dream of creating something totally different. So the whole foundation for his later tech advocacy, it was actually laid very early on. He was a tinkerer at heart, way before he ever became a household name.
And that early ambition eventually skyrocketed him right into the mainstream spotlight, leading to his major breakthrough, hosting the reality TV show Living on the Edge. Now, if you remember this era, you know exactly how huge this was. His incredibly energetic style pulled in millions of viewers all across the country. The whole show was built on daring challenges, intense stunts, fierce competitions. He literally became one of Pakistan's most recognizable television personalities almost overnight. But of course, with massive audiences comes intense scrutiny. The show drew a lot of early criticism from folks who felt the stunts encouraged risky behavior. It was definitely a polarizing broadcast, but man, there was absolutely no denying its monumental success and his sheer ability to capture the public's attention.
Moving on to Phase 2, the social media shift and pivoting to digital. In the traditional TV model, you've got studio lights, highly produced stunts, and passive audiences just sitting in their living rooms. But as smartphones and internet access exploded everywhere, Waqar saw the writing on the wall. He didn't just cling to a fading medium. Instead, he completely shifted gears towards social media. He started using phone screens, YouTube setups, and live streams to talk about tech trends and current events. And unlike a lot of traditional celebrities who rely heavily on PR teams and keeping a carefully maintained distance, he went for direct engagement. He started speaking directly to his audience in real time, building this incredibly solid foundation of digital trust.
Which brings us to Chapter 3, the cryptocurrency mission and educating Pakistan. This willingness to engage directly really set the stage for what is absolutely the biggest turning point in his entire career, taking the plunge into decentralized finance. Now, while many of us watching already understand how blockchain operates without central intermediaries, Waqar faced the massive challenge of translating these highly technical, jargon-heavy concepts for an everyday public that was literally just hearing the word Bitcoin for the very first time. He essentially took the deep complexities of digital ledgers and decentralized networks and made them super accessible to the everyday person tuning into his live streams.
He wasn't just out there hyping up a trend, though. He was actively breaking down the nuts and bolts of how blockchain actually works, and crucially, he paired all this education with a heavy dose of caution. He was constantly urging people to learn the ropes before they ever risk investing their own capital. But perhaps most importantly, he became a really loud voice advocating for proper regulatory frameworks in Pakistan. Look, whether people agreed with all of his views or not, his efforts undeniably sparked nationwide discussions about the future of digital currencies and the absolute necessity of protecting everyday citizens in a super fast-paced, rapidly evolving market.
All right, let's look at Chapter 4, Controversies and Criticisms, and the public debates.
Whenever you have an outspoken personality consistently challenging the status quo, you naturally generate deep polarization. Waqar Zaka is certainly no exception. and this dynamic has led to some high-profile legal disputes and extremely fiery online debates. If you look at it impartially, it's a real split. To his supporters, he's seen as this fearless, highly innovative pioneer who is pushing boundaries and asking the tough questions. But to his critics, his opinions and actions can be seen as highly controversial and, at times, overly risky. You really cannot fully discuss his overall impact without acknowledging both sides, the intense loyalty he inspires and the heavy scrutiny he naturally attracts.
And that takes us to Chapter 5, Mastering Digital Reinvention and Embracing the Future.
Fast forward to today, and he operates from a totally modern digital setup, heavily focused on creating content around things like artificial intelligence, coding, and the broader digital economy. This reinvention playbook, it is practically a masterclass in adaptation. Think about the steps here. First, you have to actually recognize the shifting media landscape, seeing traditional television fade while the internet rises. Then, you transition to direct digital engagement. You build a real community rather than just broadcasting to a massive passive audience. And finally, you provide real value by educating the public on emerging innovations. This blueprint shows us exactly how adapting to new technology can completely reshape a career from the ground up.
To wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a thought based on everything we've just covered today. This whole story, going from television fame to becoming a prominent voice in the tech community, it reminds us that in the digital age, standing still is basically moving backward. The landscape is going to shift, whether you're ready for it or not. So, the ultimate question is, success belongs to those willing to embrace change. Are you? Seriously, think about your own career, your own industry, and your own readiness to adapt to the next big wave of technology. Keep learning, keep adapting, and I will catch you in the next explainer.